everyone. How are you? It's good to see you in the comments already. Happy Friday. Happy day for justice. So Katie's coming and she'll be here in 1 minute. She's making a coffee as we do. And what I wanted to do with her today is have you all help her bring her up to speed on what happened with the Dan Markel case this week, because she's been out of town all week. So I wanted to do that. And I wanted to know if any of you are watching what's going on and what has been going on since 2014 with the Bardstown, Kentucky murders, including one of a police officer. So I'm just wondering if you're following the missing case of Crystal Rogers. That happened in 2015, but prior to that, there have been other murders in this southern idyllic town, and there are some resemblances, commonalities, I should say, to what's going on in the Dan Markel case. So I'm interested in that. I'm also personally interested in the upcoming trial for Caitlin Armstrong, who was the cyclist who is accused of murdering her boyfriend's girlfriend over a love spat, like a triangle thing, and a few more other things. But I wanted to get into that Kentucky thing, that Kentucky series of events as well. So yeah, so tell me if you're interested in any of that. But before we do that, Katie will be on, and we're going to talk about the Dan Markel case and this week. So how many of you feel like there's a possibility, like let's say 0 to 50% or 50% to 100%, that the FBI will take Donna and Harvey into custody if they interview based on their questions? They're not going to just trick them and arrest them necessarily, but maybe they're going to interview them and they will say something that is incriminating and they might arrest them. How many of you feel like the feds might take over for for the remaining co-conspirators? I'm really interested in that. Oh, Katie's here.
Hi.
Hi, Katie.
Hi. I heard you talking about Donna and Harvey, so I'm interested to get your takes on it.
Yes. And so the chat, I was just bringing the chat up to date that you've been out of town all week. So we want to bring you up to speed. So Here, let's get to some of these comments while we get ourselves rolling here.
I did watch that hearing because you streamed it. So I did get a chance to watch it.
Okay.
And I really appreciate how Georgia went at him. She did a great job.
Yeah. And she didn't have, she was on solid ground. She was on solid ground legally, because they were really grasping for straws, which James from Mentor Deep Dive True Crime really helped us appreciate. And he actually, on his channel prior to this, went through all of those precedent cases that they were referencing and stuff. So we kind of knew, but yeah. So I really I'm liking the new judge too.
Yeah. And it seemed like the cases that they were trying to come at to do precedents was to show that it was like about foreign, like,
right.
It didn't. Yeah. Anyway. So
yeah,
that was interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't quite there. It was kind of reaching. They don't have much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like they were trying to say, well, Georgia's only interviewing them now because I put them on the witness list. And so I'm just going to take them off the witness list per Rashbaum.
Yeah.
How do you say his name? So I'll just take them off the witness list so that way Georgia can't interview them. And she's like, no, I've been trying to interview them for 8 years or 7 years now. And they have always said no. So now I finally have the legal proceedings to interview them, as long as they don't take the fifth. Like, I need to know if they're going to take the fifth or not. Is that kind of correct?
Well, not really. I don't think Georgia really said it that way, but I don't think they're allowed to take the fifth either. They'll be held in contempt. Right. Right. So let's quick say hey to the chat too. So hey, Lorenzo, my day so far has been pretty chill. I'm home, as you can all see. I'm no longer in Wisconsin. And then Cliff mentioned something, and I really appreciate this, Cliff, that he might have been wrong about the reference to the 31 minutes of missing audio in the Dolce Vita recording, the Dolce Vita restaurant. Rashbaum said 31 minutes are not audible. Yeah, I think that's about right. And I know you, and he said, I responded to your comment on that a few days ago. Yeah. I think they were referring to, I think to me, the argument wasn't whether or not to allow the recording from Dolce Vita that was taken by the FBI, but whether or not to give the jury the transcript. Because part of it is so inaudible, and so that was what they were arguing. Okay,
and are the transcripts admissible or not inadmissible?
I think part of this is still under advisement. There's a couple outstanding questions. Hi, Growler. Hello, everyone from Growler.
Because I remember seeing a lot of the stuff that they were arguing about is admissible.
It is.
If I remember it.
It is.
Okay.
They're
So
not.
That's exciting.
They're not hurting too much, and it would have been hard. It's hard to argue because all of these things were admissible in two other trials. So how do you now say they're not? And this argument, a lot of the argument too, is about the information being what they call stale. That's a term which I think is kind of distasteful when you're talking about stale evidence in a murder that has gone unanswered for years. I mean, we have cold cases. Sure, that evidence might be stale. There might be some new evidence, but you're not going to just throw away what you already learned up to that point. Right. So I found that one interesting.
Yeah.
So everyone's saying, hi. Oh, hey, Pappy's here. Hi, Pappy. Haven't seen you in a while. They both look good in this little picture, but does any know? Oh, my goodness. That's Magbanua. Not Katie.
No, I did not paid for.
And Growler says 95%. I think that's on what's being allowed this year for this one. Georgia is on our minds. Yes, Luke, I agree. I like this judge. I was starting to ask what you feel about this judge. Very no nonsense. Can work both ways. He can work both ways. But I don't think he's not going to take too much scuff from anybody. I like him. I really miss Wheeler though. I really miss Wheeler. Okay, Pappy, burn. Pappy's in for the burn. Helen is laughing. Oh, Society Page, and I was just thinking, about you, Society Page. I missed a few videos because I was back in Wisconsin helping my mom, who, by the way, had her procedure and is doing well now. And so I'm home, but I got pretty sick too. Not what she had, just exhaustion and various things. So my voice is a little weak. You can tell. Bomb rat. Rat bomb. Society Page, we love you. Anyway, so I was starting to say, I just saw a couple videos that I missed from the Society Page, and the one it was about Wheeler. We were saying goodbye to Wheeler. That one was so great. I love that. All of the Society Page's videos are just too great. Society Page, I would love to interview you. If you don't want to come on camera and just want to do your logo, I would love to interview you and talk to you about what you do and how you do it and that kind of thing. I think it'd be interesting.
Ooh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, let me know if you'd be up for that. Yes. So hi, Luke. Hi, Adam. Go Knowles. Transcripts are always just a demonstrative aid. They said a few times, so the tape is evidence. Right. Very good point. And he's also from Adam. Donna is so guilty on all the wiretaps. It's sickening. Okay, so I should have put a poll in, but I didn't. Okay, 0 to 50% that Donna and or Harvey, well, let's do them separately. Okay, chat. 0 to 50%, Donna says something in the FBI interview in Miami on the 17th, which is 4 days from now, that gets her arrested that day. 0 to 50% or 50% to how sure are you that she will say something incriminating that would lead to her arrest by the FBI? And then the same question for Harvey. And I'm also exploring the idea that on two folds, that the Adelsons might be tried, if arrested, in federal court, not state court. And for a variety of reasons. I mean, this has been very expensive for Tallahassee. This is their fourth trial now. That would be 3 more, unless they've got to get them all 3 together, which I'm sure they'll fight tooth and nail. But also, wealthy people like to go to federal prison, not state prison. So there could be some negotiating about that too. So anybody have any thoughts on that? Society page, I saw that on the hitting the microphone idea. I know I have so many shorts in mind. I just haven't had a chance. I've really been under the weather. What do you think, Katie? Do you think that?
I guess my biggest question is, why would it go FBI versus? I'm really echoey.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, the feds wanted this case all along.
For what purpose, though? Like, what makes it? Sorry, I'm just making sure that I have my audio settings correct.
I'll look away so I don't barf. I'm like,
hold on one second. I was really echoey, so I just want to make sure that I have my audio settings right. Sorry, I should have done this a long time ago.
Well, I can take you. Okay, I can. Are you good?
Yep. Okay, so I guess I don't know what makes it an FBI case, because it wasn't like crossed over the borders. It wasn't, it was just, this sounds so bad, but it wasn't like a child involved. It was just a murder of a person. So what would make it an FBI case?
The FBI wanted, the feds wanted this case. And because I don't know that part of it. And I don't really care about that part as much, but I'm guessing because it has to do with also financial crimes.
Okay.
And there was probably tax evasion. There's
sure
talk of some other kind of fraudulent activities that would be more. But the benefit to the state is huge because of the expense of these trials.
Yep.
It's been going on and on and on forever, and so I mean, I don't know how the state would feel about it, but when I saw that they were going to be interviewed in Miami at the FBI field office, not in Tallahassee with Georgia, I mean, maybe Georgia's going down there, I'm not sure, but or her staff. I'm sure some of her staff will be there for the questioning, but I just started thinking, I wonder if they are going to find that it's time for an arrest and for their day in court to come, meaning Donna, Harvey, and Wendi, then maybe there's a possibility that the feds might take over. So I was wondering. Yep.
I feel like my thoughts are that the state's going to remain with the murder charges, but I feel like if it goes to the money charges, then I feel the feds would take over. But that's just my.
Okay, say that one more time.
That the state would stick with the murder charges. So if they're going to get Wendi on the conspiracy to murder or Donna on conspiracy to murder, then I feel like the state would stay with that. But then if it came to like the money laundering or financial crimes or anything like that, then I would assume that the feds would take over.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know, based on the way you framed your question, why the feds they might just want it. Now, here's an answer in the comment from Peter Estrada. The feds want to protect their investments and assets. And he gives an example of Ghislaine Maxwell, charged, tried, and convicted and sentenced for what she did, to no one, and feds sitting on the tapes and videos. So if the feds had assets or information that they wanted out of the Adelsons, for something
Sure.
else. Yeah. Yeah. So, and yay, society, that would be great. Okay. I'd love it. I love it. Hopefully you have an email, or I can text you with contact information on your page, and I'll get in touch with you. I've been dying to ask you for that for a while. So what's happening, Deb? So, hey, Debbie, we're just filling Katie in on what happened over the week because she's been out of town. So you want to give us a summary in your own words? And no one's answered my poll question. Nobody wants to guess? That's okay. I have a feeling there might be a little more to this. Okay, because they're fighting it so hard.
Sure.
The Adelsons are fighting, even going to talk, with a reasonable amount of, Florida state allows for a certain amount of immunity, not full immunity or anything like that. So it could be that the feds have something else on them as well. And then that could be part of the whole
Right.
deal.
I wonder if they could make a deal for to the feds about their money stuff in exchange for giving them Wendy's conspiracy, or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
They would go to federal prison versus still being charged for in state.
Right.
But I don't know. It's fascinating.
I mean, we don't know everything they know for sure.
Right.
And Helen says that, they'd want to go to federal prison. That was my feeling. Exactly. Yeah. They're going to want to go to federal prison if they can help it.
Yeah.
And of course, innocent people don't have to fight. And of course, they will never turn on Wendi. They might turn on Charlie. I don't think they'd give up Wendi. I agree with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, they might offer, the feds might say, well, put it out there, but
yeah,
it's got to be a really scary time for this family.
Yeah. Finally.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, it was just like Charlie's ex-girlfriend, June Umchinda, who said he was just paranoid. He wasn't sleeping. He was, before he was arrested. So I imagine it's got to be that way. Oh, I didn't put the poll up. I just asked it here. Does anyone think that Donna and or Harvey are going to be arrested by the feds based on something they say on the 17th in the FBI interview at the field office in Miami?
Well, they do still have the choice to plead the fifth or take the fifth. They would just be then held in contempt and then go to jail for that.
Yes, they would be. They would be taken into custody in Miami, brought to Tallahassee, face the judge in Tallahassee on charges of contempt.
Yeah, because I remember their lawyer was like, well, I don't know. I guess I'll have to talk to my clients to see if they would prefer to be held in contempt versus take the fifth. So that's interesting.
Right. Thank
what
you.
What are they hiding?
Yeah. Glad you like my hair. Thank you. It's usually in a ponytail.
It does. I was thinking the same thing. It looks really nice today.
Oh, thank you.
You look very nice.
Oh, thank you. It's just my hair. Just got out of bed here. Okay, so Donna, yes. Harvey, no, says Kate. And by the way, hello, Kate. All of the A's, barring Rob, have demonstrated examples of consciousness of guilt. That is for certain. Certain. And just by way of reminder, so we've done quite a few videos regarding the Dan Markel case. And so I have a playlist that this one sits in, that this video, all my lives, anything pertaining. But I also have some real short videos, including Luis's proffer, Jeffrey Lacasse, all his police interviews, and all of Wendi Adelson's police interview, and that's broken down into, I think we did that in like 10 or so episodes. It was a long one. Well, no, probably more, because it was probably more like 20 episodes. I can't remember, but I have
6 hours.
Yeah, it was 5, closer to 5. It was really 5.
Yeah.
So check out the playlist. If you're looking for anything, let me know. Hi, hi, hi. Okay, and Ryan, you know that meme of the little girl smirking into the camera with the house on fire behind her? Could that be Wendi? Yeah, I actually did a meme of that in my community pages. With the, I can't remember who it was. If it was Wendi, somebody I think it was Wendi. Maybe she wanted to blow. Well, anything's possible, and maybe even. Sorry, I just screamed into the mic. Anything's possible, and you know, the psychological aspect to all of this and the family dynamics and the family psychology is so interesting.
Yeah.
Chief says feds may arrest them but will not prosecute them. Unlikely they are on federal charges which they could bring. I think Mentor Lawyer talked about this. I'm going to talk when we do our video together soon. He's still up in Massachusetts. I'll ask him this question. It's just an interesting thought to me.
Yeah.
Because I do remember that the feds wanted this case in the state. Yeah. And why not? If the state has higher powers up that don't want the Adelsons charged because of connections and all that, which was also suggested, highly suggested by a lot of people. I don't know. But if that is the case, then that would be another reason the feds could take it. You can't control the federal government. They can maybe control the state government or at least Tallahassee, but they can't. These people, and some of whom are already gone off the scene, retired and whatnot. So, yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, I just think it's interesting they're going to be interviewed at the FBI office. Oh, did you? 15-minute short? Oh, a shorter video. Oh, one of my mini videos. Okay, good. I'm glad. There's a lot of juicy stuff in there. I mean, every time I look at those interviews, I see more things. It's just kind of like a piece of art. It's like, I didn't see that before. Peter says Harvey is whooped by Donna, but definitely money man. Donna ain't gonna pay her cut. Harvey did or does. Okay. All right. So
I do know that Jay, you know how we've talked about him in the past. He is currently during the day streaming the past trials of Katie and Sigfredo. So if you want to go back and rewatch the trials, he is streaming them during the day.
Yeah, I think Mentor Lawyer has those on his page.
Oh, he does.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. What do you think, chat? I kind of wanted to talk about Crystal Rogers in Bardstown, Kentucky, because it's so fascinating. Or would you like to go through the hearing, which was about a 30-minute hearing with Katie, with us commenting and having fun with it? Because we've had the hearing run, but we haven't had like time to pause when there's a burn or anything. What would you prefer? So just type in the comments Crystal Rogers or Dan Markel, because I like to focus on the victims, not the people that are, so in other words, right now we can do either. What do you prefer, Katie?
Honestly, I'm good with either. I am interested in Crystal Rogers. The whole Bardstown in general is kind of, there's been a lot
crazy.
Of crime.
Okay.
Yeah, so I started listening to a new podcast called Investigators with Jessica Knoll and Todd Comas, I think is his name. But she did a whole podcast series on Bardstown. Like she went there to do one crime, and I don't even remember what crime it was, but then she's like, oh man, there's way more into this.
It's so bad.
She did more on Bardstown.
Yeah.
So I did listen to the one on Crystal Rogers, but I didn't. So
okay.
That's interesting. But I think based on where we've been, I think going to the live trial and talking about it together would be
the hearing.
a good idea. Yeah.
Okay, the
The
society
hearing, sorry.
page says Markel. Okay, so let me get that out for you. I can, what I will do at the end is, even if you can't stay on for it, but hopefully you can stay on for it. If it depends on how long we go. I'll go over the Bardstown one, or I'll come on tomorrow and do it, or later if
Sure.
you can, and then you can watch it. Okay, so let's get the screen. Let's see. What did I say I was going to do?
Oh, the trial, was it 2 days ago already?
Oh yeah,
Yesterday?
the hearing.
Yeah, the hearing. Sorry. I keep calling it
Yes.
trial, and I know it's not that.
Yeah, and I have to remember to take down, and I did write them for permission because I streamed another hearing from their page and they were okay with it.
Sure.
I mean, as far as I know, they didn't say no. So, and eventually they took it down, but it was up for a long time. This was like a couple of years ago. Because
Crystal
I do
Rogers
respect copyright.
Crystal Rogers was found, right?
No, her body.
Why did I think they just found her body? Or
Oh,
did
like
they
today?
No, in the last 2 weeks. Because I thought her and another missing, Suzanne Morphew, were both found in the same, not in the same area, but in the same time
No,
frame.
not with Suzanne. No, that was
Okay.
somebody else.
Okay.
No, that was somebody else.
They just finally arrested somebody for Crystal Rogers.
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
she's not. Her body has not yet been found, but they're hoping with the new arrests that her body will be found. Well, and Society page says Crystal Rogers case is interesting though too. Well, I just got I'm really keen on doing that, but I am also keen on you watched the hearing, right? You heard it.
Yeah, there were a couple questions that I had about it, so I
right,
would like to go over that live.
Okay, let's do that. Goodness gracious.
It does take a while for it to like start talking. 3 or 4
Yeah, it does.
minutes. Because I kept on thinking, do I even have this on?
I know.
Is this playing?
They're waiting for the people in Miami to get set up. I think it was 3 minutes. Oh, this is bad, 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 bad. Hold on. You know what? I think Mentor Lawyer has it, and it was much louder. Let me grab that.
I remember it being hard to hear.
Yeah. I forgot Mentor had it. Okay. I can't wait. I have so many questions for him when he gets back. All right. Here we go. Hold on. Sorry.
I really love your shades back there.
Oh, thank you. Some of them are a little crumply because my cat decided to eat some of the strings.
Oh,
so I have to put a backing on and get the.
But those are the ones that you made, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. There we go. Better sound. Plus, I'm sorry, my mouse is acting weird again. I have mouse issues. I don't know if I don't know what's happening. I can't even find my tracker. Gosh.
That's why you have a cat, for all your mouse issues.
The third trial involving the 2014 murder of FSU law professor Dan Markel
is going to start in a few days.
The state is seeking a fourth conviction in the case. So far, the 2 Miami hitmen, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera, as well as
the middle woman, the person who connected.
There's my puppy.
And the people who wanted Dan Markel dead.
Karen Magbanua, who helped set up the hit, had been convicted. In this trial, the state seeks the conviction of the victim's former brother-in-law, who, according to the allegations by the state, was involved in ordering and paying for the hit on Dan Markel.
Okay.
I have not read.
Prosecuting authorities and
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone.
court granted the writ on the basis that the immunity that is extended by the state extends to other prospective prosecuting authorities, including the federal authorities, and cites to a United States Supreme Court case from 1964, which stands for the same proposition. In effect, with your motion to dismiss, you're arguing against a statute, Florida appellate law, and the United States Supreme Court. What is your basis in fact or law to make this argument?
Well, Your Honor, I have not read Belledour, but just listening to what Your Honor has been saying, the case from the Supreme Court of 1964, I think is inconsistent with the Second Circuit opinion that I cited, much more recent, which states a similar fact, even though it's not state versus federal, it's federal versus foreign authority. And
One moment.
no, Your Honor, it hasn't.
Then what you're citing to is not applicable with regard to the state's grant of immunity.
Understood, Your Honor, but we are not in the third DCA. I don't know if we're not in the third District Court of Appeals, so there might be the appellate court in this district might take a different view to what the Supreme Court case says. I believe the case of U.S. v. Castigar is after this 1964 Supreme Court case.
It is. It came in 1998. Go ahead.
Right. So I believe the Castigar case, which is also a Supreme Court case and talks about the Fifth Amendment privilege, gives different protections. For example, under Castigar, in order to convey immunity, it has to go before a court. The court has to determine
Ouch, my ears.
and compel the testimony. And once the testimony is compelled, Castigar gives the further protection of when you go before the court, if someone is indicted in the later proceeding, the state or the government, federal government, has the duty to prove to the court in a hearing, in an evidentiary hearing, that the statement or that there was no derivative, that all the evidence was from derivative forces and how those forces were found. Right? That protection.
One moment, before you go on about Castigar, again, does that not deal with testimony that is...
I love his demeanor before you go on about. In other words, you can tell his patience is already like...
I've already told you this doesn't work.
Right.
But go on.
Before you go on.
Yeah.
is being sought by a foreign entity, which would then implicate that individual's Fifth Amendment right.
Well, in Castigar, it was federal immunity. It was a federal court that compelled the testimony of Mr. Castigar, and the decision was that the provision of derivative immunity was sufficient to uphold the Fifth Amendment rights of Mr. Castigar, as long as these additional protections were put in place. And so, Your Honor, you're telling me that there's a Supreme Court case from 1964 that says the Florida statute is sufficient for protections under the federal government. Castigar gives additional protection, which is court compelled, and later the government has a duty to show the court how and where it got its information from, which is not a protection that's given by the Florida statute.
All right. Well, given the fact that I am going to find Section 914.04 Florida statutes is constitutional, and the authority of Belledour, which is binding on me as a trial court because it comes from the District Courts of Appeal, and Belledour specifically cites the Murphy versus Waterfront Commission of New York, which is found at 378 U.S. 52, and holds the constitutional privilege against self-incrimination protects a state witness against incrimination under federal as well as state law. Given all those layers of authority, this argument to dismiss the order to show cause, I'm going to find, is without merit and is denied.
So he didn't just say it was denied. He said it was without merit.
Yep.
And he cited all those different levels of basically protection of the witness's rights. So this was immediately, I was like, this was a pretty strong statement. I mean, he wasn't being snarky or anything like that, but he was saying it's without merit. He didn't have to say that.
Right.
Yeah. And so you can already tell he's a little annoyed. And if you watched Mentor Lawyer, he did say that this argument was, I think he used the word frivolous, or it might have been mine, but the point being, it's a win because it shows how little they have.
Yeah.
And it also,
As to the answer,
and it also shows how desperate they are to
Yep.
keep Donna and Harvey off the witness stand and away from the FBI.
Yep.
And we all know what Wendi said. Of course they would testify if they were asked. Of course they would cooperate.
If they were subpoenaed, they would be very cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
to the order to show cause, I'll allow you to argue those grounds.
I think my answers were the same, Your Honor, as the motion to dismiss. It's that we did not delay in responding. We have been speaking to Ms. Kaplan at all times, and I don't believe that there was a reason to file a motion for order to show cause. We have acted in good faith, and there's no reason for an order to show cause.
Ms. Kappelman?
Judge, I relied on the representations of counsel that her clients intended to invoke at the interview. So if Your Honor's order is now going to be honored and they are being compelled and they intend to answer questions, then I don't think a show cause is necessary. But I think we could get a representation here in court as to whether or not they intend to answer questions pursuant to this court's finding here today.
So let this be clear. The reason that this predicament, this argument is going on is because, number one, Rashbaum put Donna and Harvey on his witness list.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, I forgot my number two, but I'm so you guys, I'm feeling better, but I'm still not all there. And I had got a pretty decent concussion this week too. So my brain is definitely not working right. I can tell. So I'll come back with number two in a second. Oh, come on, my mousey.
Ms. Sclazo?
Your Honor, I understand the court's ruling, but for the protection of my clients, I'm going to seek from you a stay of their testimony so that I can do.
No stay is going to be granted. If your clients are not going to comply from here, we are going to move into contempt proceedings.
Understood, Your Honor. I have to speak to them before I decide. If Your Honor, if you're not going to grant me a stay, and you're going
Well,
to
there's no need to keep stammering about the stay. The stay is denied. From here, are you going to produce your clients to testify pursuant to the grant of immunity?
And she was stammering.
Yeah.
She really was.
My
She was like,
You're not going to give me a stay, but I thought you would give me a stay. How could you not give me a stay?
It was like, well, I have to speak to my clients. It's like, no, you don't, dude. Your clients don't have any say over this. Are you not getting the picture? But the way he said this, stammering.
I know.
He is
it's
definitely
so great.
not having it with this attorney. Now, mind you, this isn't Rashbaum and I forgot the other one's name. But these are not Charlie's attorneys. This is Donna and Wendy's attorney. Yep. And she doesn't seem to have. She's more of another one who's a white collar criminal crime attorney specialist. That's another reason I think there might be some federal things going on as well because of the they all have white collar crime specialists. Sure. Not criminal.
Or I'm going to issue a writ of bodily attachment to bring them to Tallahassee, and we will have contempt proceedings here in Tallahassee.
Yes.
I will produce them.
What date is the interview scheduled?
Tallahassee. Get on
We
board.
had
Get on board.
preliminarily, Your Honor, discussed a date.
I love how calm
moment.
Georgia can be. You know, you can be
With
calm,
October 17th, that way.
but Rashbaum is there.
We did talk about
That's right.
October 17th.
Because he's going to talk next.
Well, he
in the
he would have been
afternoon,
there
Judge.
anyway.
That was as specific as we got. So 1:30 on October 17th would be my proposal at this time.
Very well.
Was it the 17th or 18th? I'm sorry. It might have been the 18th.
It was
Sorry.
it was the 17th.
Okay.
And Your Honor, when Ms. Kaplan sent her email, I promptly responded that I have a hearing at 1:30 and federal court, and that I would need to do it a little bit later than the 1:30 session.
That'll be fine, Judge.
I'll leave it to the attorneys to work through the logistics of when the interview is to take place. Mr. Rauschbaum, even though the order to show cause does not directly concern you, there is one matter that needs to be addressed this morning. Since you've listed Mr. and Mrs. Adelson as witnesses on the defendant's behalf, if there is non-compliance with this interview, at that point, it will become an issue of whether there is some remedy that is going to be sought with regard to the witnesses. Is there anything that you wish to state in that regard?
I'm sorry, Judge, I missed what you just said.
I said, is there anything that you wish to state to that regard?
Just for the record, I put them on my witness list after the state sought their interview. So it's a little bit backwards, right? They're justifying the interview, and look, we understand you ruled on our discovery motion, but they justified in their response the interview based.
I just want to interject here. Isn't that blue leather on the chair beautiful? That color,
It
stunning.
really is.
It's just so stunning. It looks
on me putting them on a witness list, but I put them on the witness list only after they sought an interview. So, Judge, again, I'll take them off the list if they're not interviewed, right? But the reality is, Judge, this is an end around the discovery rules. They've had years to interview these people, and now on the eve of trial, instead of
They had years to interview them. You know darn well. He was, in fact, Rashbaum was part of them not being interviewed all those years.
Yeah, I love Georgia's comeback to this.
Oh, this is
care
beautiful.
my client for possible testimony, they're interviewing key witnesses in this case who aren't going to be called as witnesses. I told you, if they're not interviewed, I'm not calling them. 6 days before trial starts. So rather than be in Tallahassee prepping for trial, it's gamesmanship that now I have to stay in Miami and be here for these interviews. They've known about the Adelsons for 8 years. Mr. Adelson was arrested a year and a half ago, and they wait till now on the eve of trial to try to interview these people. It's not right. It's a blatant violation of the discovery order. We understand how you ruled, Your Honor, but the justification that I put them on my interview list, let me be clear. I'll take them off the interview list, off my witness list, if they're not going to be interviewed. I put them on there as a protection for myself.
There it is. No, you can't undo your mistake now.
Right. Also, Rashbaum's going to drive me crazy during this trial, isn't he?
I don't think so.
No?
He's very stressed right now. You can tell he's like, he's not normally like that.
Okay.
I don't think he will. I mean, I don't think so. He might, but
he's sounding very pompous and like angry.
He's sounding desperate to me. He's definitely heightened. His voice is higher than normally. He's just very jovial and kind and kindly. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
I hope not.
With regard to that, I'll allow the attorneys to discuss with each other any matters pertaining to the witness list. However, Mr. Adelson and Miss Adelson will need to be present on October 17th if either party is planning to produce them as witnesses. Is this clear?
So let me make sure I understand. I'm
Oops. Oh, shit.
Front Commission.
I was trying to do the pause button. Is this clear?
Uh-huh.
Do you know where we were?
Of New
14?
York, which is found at 3.
14?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, here, right here.
Only when I reached out to secure the fact, nail down the fact that they were going to invoke, did they begin this whole process.
Can you go
by
back
saying,
like
oh,
1
well,
minute?
We're going to invoke, not make the.
So they're trying to get an interview now on the eve of trial, frankly, to figure out what my defense is. That's why they want to interview him. They don't plan on calling.
Done.
Timothy Ferreters.
It's my mouse is acting weird. Sorry.
Okay, that case
I
also
believe
really
the county
pisses me
courthouse.
off.
Okay, he said in order to get a confession. Did he say that? What did he just say?
No, in order to see what my defense is. They're
Okay.
only interviewing them to figure out what my
Right.
defense is.
Okay, sorry,
They
guys.
need to be produced for the interview on October 17th.
I won't touch
If
it.
no one is planning to call them, then really from there, that moots the issue as to the trial. But for the interview itself, they are to be produced on October 17th.
The thing is, Judge, it's gamesmanship because the state doesn't plan on calling them. So they're trying to get an interview now on the eve of trial, frankly, to figure out what my defense is. That's why they want to interview him. They don't plan on calling them. Ask them right now. They don't plan on calling them. There's no chance they're going to call them.
Kappelman, Ms. Dugan,
Yes, Your Honor.
do you have any representations to make as to whether the Adelsons will be called?
Contrary to some of the pleadings that have been filed in this case, the Adelsons have never made themselves available for interview. They were sought to be interviewed shortly after the homicide. They did not make themselves available for interview. They have never made themselves available for interview. And only when I reached out to secure the fact, nail down the fact that they were going to invoke, did they begin this whole process by saying, oh, well, we're going to invoke for pretrial interview purposes, investigative subpoena purposes, but not for trial. So obviously that's not an acceptable result for the state. That's when I began to fear they were going to testify for the defense. And then they were listed by the defense. I thought I was clear in my pleadings that I anticipated they would invoke for everything prior to them being listed as witnesses on the defense witness list. Okay, so I think I laid that out. I wasn't trying to bootstrap in the interview by the fact that they were listed on the defense witness list, as they're now accusing me of. And I was seeking to interview them prior to that, seeking to either nail them down on their invocation or not. I don't know if I'll call them as a witness because they've never said anything. They've never been subjected to an interview. So it's certainly possible, depending on what they say, that I could call them as witnesses. They certainly are people that have relevant evidence to the case. Whether they'll provide it or not, I can't know until and unless they're compelled to submit to this interview pursuant to Your Honor's order.
Very well. On October 17th, if they do not appear, the parties will need to advise me. We will proceed forward from there. The court's goal is compliance with the investigative interview. Beyond that, if other measures have to be taken, they will be. We're in recess. Have a good day, everyone.
There you go.
All right. So yeah. So it's so fantastic. It is an investigative interview. They do investigate even through the trial.
Yep.
So they might say something that Georgia's like, well, I might not, or I still might want to call them based on what they said. So I don't think they're going to be relieved from their duty to be potentially subpoenaed for the trial.
Right.
I mean, I would just love to know the list of questions he has for them.
Right.
I would love to know. And I know a lot of these, we know very well that a lot of these police interviews and interrogations are taped and released to the public. But if it's done at the FBI office, I don't know that it would be.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's segue into the Crystal Rogers. One of the great things about that is there are some great police interviews on available for those, and I'd like to start going through those as well. So,
Perfect.
Crystal Rogers, let me grab my notes real quick before we go.
That other case that you accidentally flipped to, that Timothy Ferreter case, the boy in the
Yeah.
box.
Yeah,
Okay, first off, that's horrifying. And
It's
second
so
off, I don't
horrible.
know how he ever thought any of that was acceptable. And third, the dum-dum could have, was offered a plea deal for 24 months. And he declined it
yep,
and went to trial and is
Yep.
now going to serve up to 30 years.
yep.
Dum-dum.
Well,
Dumb.
Arrogant,
Dumb.
arrogant.
And then
Arrogant.
his dumb wife, the only time she showed any emotion through that entire trial was when he was finally sentenced. And then she cried. Not about what she did to that poor child. She
Mhm.
didn't cry until he was sentenced. So hopefully now she'll take some kind of plea deal so they don't have to go through all of that again. But dumb.
I was really surprised they were out. Like they weren't jailed during that time.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know if I would call it dumb. I would call it arrogant. He seemed very
Yes.
arrogant. He was weird. He was so robotic and weird.
Yeah.
Probably arrogant. Okay. Yeah, that was super sad. I have a hard time with those ones.
Yeah, I just caught the
Totally.
clips of it.
Mhm.
I did not watch it, but just.
All right. Well,
Ugh.
let's pop over to Bardstown, Kentucky, the whiskey capital of the United States. There's a whiskey museum, and it's a big thing. It's a cute little darling idyllic town, and here it is. Here's Bardstown. There's something beautiful about a small town. Sample our spirit.
There's just something beautiful about a small town. But there's one small town so picturesque that Rand McNally in USA Today declared it the most beautiful small town in America. Bardstown, Kentucky. A small town that's charming, enchanting, neat, unforgettable, and downright irresistible. Ah, yes. There's definitely something beautiful about Bardstown.
It is pretty. It really is.
So this is where we're going. And okay, I put some notes together. And I do have a trial docket, which I'm keeping up with. So let me share that real quick too. I just love that video so much. If you only know what was happening in Bardstown. Okay, so as far as what trials I'm paying attention to, and there's always more than what's on my list, but as far as really like maybe making content for, I'm still waiting on the Sarah Boone, Florida versus Sarah Boone.
Ooh, Elijah McClain. That guy was just found guilty. One of the cops was found guilty and the other was not.
Right.
I just saw a headline on that.
Right. There were 3 different trials on that, and there's still 2 left. So a double, like a partner trial, 1 trial, 2 defendants. So Florida versus Sarah Boone, Florida versus Charlie Adelson, the Charles Adelson.
Close. And Sarah Boone, I feel like got moved back quite a bit.
She did, probably. Texas versus Caitlin Armstrong. And that is the lady who had a hearing the other day and ran out. I saw the video of her finally running in her jail stripes down the street.
Oh my God. What are you doing?
So funny. And then we have the OnlyFans trial, Florida versus Courtney Clenny, that was scheduled for the December 19th. Very likely will get moved back, but maybe not. And over here in San Diego, very important to me, I'm keeping an eye on Maya Millette is still missing. Young mom from the South Bay, San Diego area, California versus Larry Millette, of course, her husband. And then in April of next year, we're keeping an eye on Chad Daybell, Idaho versus Chad Daybell. And then, of course, what's happening in Arizona versus Lori Daybell. I'm also watching Suzanne Morphew, the Delphi, and Crystal Rogers, which is going to take us to Bardstown, Kentucky. And then also the one up in Massachusetts, the guy who killed his wife on New Year's Eve of this year. But that's been kind of quiet. But that one might come up soon, at any time. So he might take a plea too. So if you thought justice for Dan was taking too long, let me introduce you to Crystal Rogers. Crystal Rogers, victim, and was rumored to be in the process of leaving her boyfriend, Brooks, and to have knowledge of his tax fraud and dirty business dealings. This is rumored. Crystal's mother believes Crystal overheard something she shouldn't have about the killing of Officer Ellis. Who's Officer Ellis? Officer Ellis was killed, shot. He was the only officer in Bardstown trained with a canine unit for sniffing out drugs, and they have a serious drug problem, meth problem in that area. And they also have something that they call the cornbread mafia. Of course.
Good Lord.
Yes. And I'm beginning to wonder if the Hoax brothers and family have something to do with some kind of organized crime, but I don't know. So an inmate claimed that Officer Ellis was shot because he was close to an investigation of a ring of storage shed burglaries and business burglaries. Now, I say, sounds similar to stealing roof shingles? Well, Brooks was actually arrested for stealing roof shingles. Now, it's said that Brooks has accumulated wealth of about $10 million by doing, it sounds like he does real estate development, but also real estate investment. And he has some 100 properties. So where did he get that money? Did he start out with that money? Was his family wealthy? I'm not sure. But also, if he's got to steal roof shingles, what is happening here? I mean, the whole thing is just so weird. So, in addition, there was a school teacher in Bardstown and her daughter who were brutally murdered around the time, and I'm going to give the timeline real quick here. And then Crystal's dad was shot also. Crystal's dad was shot because, well, the motive is thought to be, we'll put it that way, that they wanted to stop his digging into who killed Crystal and why.
Yeah.
Number one, that I thought was weird, Brooks Hoke, who is Crystal's boyfriend, who claimed she just wasn't there when he woke up one day. They have a baby together. He's worth $10 million. He has no affiliation with law enforcement, but he ran for sheriff. He ran for sheriff of Bardstown. So that's kind of weird. Somebody looking for maybe power so that he could continue to do his roof shingle stealing or whatever he's doing. His brother, Nick Hoke, was a cop who was fired after failing a lie detector about Crystal Rogers and also interfering with the investigation.
Yep.
Nick Hoke had a problem with John Snow, who was a fellow officer who was interviewing Brooks, his brother.
And then he barged in on the interview, right?
Via the phone. He called him and said, you don't have to talk. Nick Hoke also was very suspicious of the police, even though he's a police officer. He was very much a gaslighting narcissist. His interview is really fun. Really fun.
Nick or Brooke?
Well, both of them, but Nick,
Okay.
I'm referring to Nick right now.
Okay.
Granny Hoke reminds me of Donna Adelson. She was fighting for custody. And Crystal's mother was not allowed to have their baby until now. After Brooks got arrested and they got exposed, and I want to watch this here. Did you watch that hearing?
Mm-mm.
It was very hard to hear. She dropped her bid for custody.
Because Crystal had other children, right?
Yes.
Okay. And okay.
Yep.
But just the one baby with Brooks, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So in order to get Brooks indicted. They went through the grand jury process. Of course, you know the grand jury process is supposed to be secret. Every single family member, the Houck family, each and every one of them recorded
it.
the grand jury.
Recorded it.
I mean, and it sounds like they're not even going to be nailed for it.
Oh my God.
Also, Danny Singleton, Brooks' best friend, lied to police during the investigation, and he was jailed for 8 months for perjury, which is very unusual, but he was. Crystal is the name of Brooks' new girlfriend.
Ick.
And she was arrested for tearing down signs for missing Crystal. Help us find Crystal. And of course, I mentioned Brooks was arrested for stealing roof shingles. This is all since the Crystal went missing.
And how many years ago did she go missing?
We'll get to that. So,
Okay.
and then another woman's remains were found near where Crystal's car was found, but not Crystal. So that's weird. So what happened is her car was left with a flat tire, with her wallet and her phone, everything in it. And she was never to be seen again. But they found another woman's body buried there. So that's weird. Like, who's that? They don't even know who that is yet.
Right.
So that was in 2020. So that was later. So let's go through the timeline. I had to write this down. The first killing was the 2013 murder of Jason Ellis, who is the Bardstown police officer. It was May of 2013. The second, and he was shot multiple times with a shotgun, and it was described as tactical. It was either military or police knowledge, the way that it was done. There was a tree put out in the road to stop him from going off the roundabout exit. The tree was not from that area. It was not indigenous to that area. So somebody came with a tree in their trunk that they cut down from somewhere else and put it in. So there was a lot of planning involved.
Okay.
So that was a 12-gauge shotgun. The second was in April of 2014, and this was the brutal homicide of 48-year-old Kathy Netherland and her 16-year-old daughter, Samantha. This is very strange. She was a school teacher, loved, beloved, did special ed. Kathy had been shot multiple times, and Samantha had been bludgeoned about the head. And so there's possibly 2 people involved in that. And then both women had their throats slit.
Wow.
So there is some question as to whether they also saw or heard something that might have been a threat to the Brooks or the Houck family. Third, the 2015 disappearance of 35-year-old Crystal Rogers. So Rogers was last seen on July 3rd at the home she shared with her boyfriend, supposedly by him, Brooks Houck, and their 2-year-old son at that time, and other children. So she had 4 other children with Mr. Rogers, who she had divorced from. So 2 days later, it was her mother who reported her missing, not Brooks Houck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, her car was found abandoned along the Bluegrass Parkway, which is where all these shootings were.
And if I remember right, the mom had run into him and he had the baby with him, which she thought was very weird because he was not a very involved dad. It was always Crystal that had the baby with him. And then she asked him if he'd seen her and he made up some excuse. And then she's like, well, I think I'm going to file a missing report. And he said, yeah, you should probably do that. So it's bananas that he didn't do any of it.
Right. And there was also some of her friends said that Crystal was ready to move out. She was done with the relationship.
Yeah.
So if she told him, I'm done, I'm moving out, he could have snapped and killed her. Or maybe she said, I know, maybe she knew things about him that he didn't want out. That's some of the working theories. Yeah. So, and then the 4th murder is a year later after Crystal, is in November. This is so tragic. Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard, was fatally shot also in the chest by an unknown gunman when out hunting. and he was with his 11-year-old grandson on family property. And the child has been ruled out. This is the kicker. It was announced at Brooks' arraignment last week that the weapon that Tommy was murdered with had been found and was tied to the Hoke family.
That's amazing.
Right. And
Any
it was
chance
after
that weapon was the same weapon that killed Ellis?
they haven't said yet.
Okay.
But this was a different shotgun. I believe it was a 12 gauge
Okay.
with it was a 12 gauge. But the other point is that the shot to Tommy Ballard is also thought by police and authorities to have been done by someone who knew what they were doing. It was a kill shot. It was.
And wasn't there like a tree?
Yep, there was camouflage
cleared specifically, and
Yep. So it looked like it could have been the same person who shot the officer or that type of training. So really, really tragic. So so that's it. So Bardstown, Kentucky has been the site of several murders and unsolved murders in recent years. Again, it's Officer Ellis, Crystal Rogers, Kathy Netherland and her daughter Samantha, the teacher, Tommy Ballard, Crystal's father. And by the way, Crystal's aunt was also murdered 30 years prior while pregnant.
that's
Her
crazy.
killer was never prosecuted. I don't know if her body was found or not, but I think they believe that was the father of the baby. She was pregnant. So interestingly, the arrest of Brooks Hawk comes just weeks after the FBI. Okay, here's the FBI.
See, this one feels like an FBI should be involved because of the multiple murders. And
So they arrested Joseph Lawson, and Joseph Lawson is an affiliate of Brooks Hawk. And they arrested him on criminal conspiracy to commit murder and complicity in tampering with physical evidence. And this is from oxygen.com. So it was a few weeks prior. So Brooks probably knew he was next. He knew this was coming. Yeah. And then the FBI did take over the investigation. Sometimes it's just a matter of resources.
mm-hmm.
And that's why I was mentioning in Tallahassee that they've put so much into this resources, and there's a lot of crime in Tallahassee. And it's such a voluminous case, and with the Markel case I'm talking about, that there does come a point where sometimes they just have to take the help that they can get. So the FBI did take over this investigation. And I think if it's conspiratorial, that is something the FBI would be involved with. The Adelson case is pretty complicated, so it doesn't have to be multiple victims necessarily. There are a lot of different reasons for the FBI to take over a case. So they did say that the FBI, once they took over, they searched one of the subdivisions that was built by Hoke's Construction Company. And after the FBI recovered an item of interest. Now, that could have been the gun. It could have been something else. And that the FBI has had this evidence tested at Quantico. Now, also, I can't remember the details, but when I was looking up this summary and reviewing what I had read, I thought the working theory, too, was that they took Crystal's body, the two brothers, Nick and Brooks, took her body out to their family farm and somehow disposed of it. And for some reason, I feel like it may have been a fire, some kind of a burning thing. So I don't know if there was some kind of a burning mechanism. Not that they were like Chad Daybell, like putting him out in the fire pit, but I felt like there was some kind of a furnace type of thing out there where they could have put her body into. Right. So, yep. And so finally, Brooks has been arrested, and probably Nick Hoke will get arrested. I'm guessing. Just my opinion.
Was Brooks arrested for murder, or what was his arrest? Because I thought his was also conspiracy.
I can't remember what he was arraigned on, but I'm sure it was conspiracy and murder and tampering and possibly even tampering with a corpse.
Ick.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's
Well, I'm
it.
excited to dig into that and
Oh,
watch
there are
some
some
interviews.
great police interviews. I definitely. Okay, let's get back to the comment. Oh no, society lives 4 hours from Delphi. Ugh, that
Oh,
is such a strange one. That is such a strange one. Oh,
Yeah.
so Helen, you hadn't heard about the Bardstown murders? It's really crazy, really crazy.
Yep.
And Helen says you're afraid and you live in Canada. And Peter says, better to die standing on your feet than to live on your knees. We are born dying. What else do we have to lose? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. So one more thing I wanted to quick cover. Do you have about 5 more minutes?
Yep.
Everyone? Okay. So back to I wanted to get that in because let me know in the comments if this sounds interesting. There's some great interviews I'd like to go through with Katie in the way that we react to interviews. I think it'd be really fun. So Mentor Lawyer teaches us how to look at things like a lawyer. That's one of the great things about following attorneys on YouTube, because they really teach us. I mean, you can learn how they look at things because they're trained to look at things differently than the average bear. And he did a little video a couple days ago asking the question, why would Wendi Adelson tell Jeffrey Lacasse about a prior attempt to hire a hitman? What would be, why, get into Wendy's head. Why would she do that?
Are you asking me to answer that?
Yeah, what would you think?
Well, I would wonder, like, if she was questioning him to see, like, almost grooming, like, how comfortable he is with that idea of doing that, as well as getting his response from a lawyer, if that were the case, like, what would happen next? I guess those are my thoughts.
I like that testing. Yeah, and he had some thoughts, and I'll share his video in the description below when we're done. And I answered, I just like having that point of view. Like, why would she say that? Because I do that throughout too. I think I've always been told I think like a lawyer. I don't think I'm quite at that level, but I've never been trained. But why would Georgia not ask a question that we would think she would want to ask? Or why would she ask a question? Or why would she ask this way? Or why would the defense ask a certain thing? Why would Rashbaum be fighting so hard for Charlie and Donna not to be interviewed? I don't think he's fighting as much for them to be put on the stand as much as an investigative interview. So that's a big, clarification there. So, so when he asked that question, I thought to myself, well, because she's likely guilty of being just as involved as Charlie and the rest of their clan. Okay, so why do I say that? If she told him that, she was aware, right? And this was like a year earlier. She said that Charlie looked into hiring a hitman.
Sure.
And when she told him was earlier, and then this is above and beyond that joke about buying you a TV. So she let her guard down. She wanted him involved. I like your idea about grooming. I'm thinking to point the finger at her brother.
Sure.
Because she was just neck deep involved in the planning and carrying out of the plan to murder Dan Markel. Not just, they did it for me and I was aware of it, but I didn't say anything. I didn't object, or I tried to object and they went ahead without me. No, she was in the middle of it, which I don't think a lot of people are considering.
Right.
Of course, she's an attorney. She would know the laws. She would know what not to do, what to do, what could be looked at, and what could be looked at sideways, in other words. So also because she was also getting more and more worked up and nervous as the time drew near. I mean, she knew what was going to happen. possibly, and she was getting so worked up that she couldn't keep her mouth shut. And she, again, consciousness of guilt.
Yeah.
And also, I also thought maybe because she's unsophisticated and lacks self-control, she does seem to lack self-control, has trouble keeping her mouth shut. And as does Charlie by many accounts.
Yeah.
And it could have just been her consciousness of guilt oozing out. So I'm wondering what else you think. But mentor lawyer said he's going to get back on that. So I think it'll be interesting to have a discussion about that. But it's an interesting question to ask anything, right?
Yeah.
That anyone says, testifies to, or asks in terms of the attorneys asking questions. Why are they asking that? Why didn't they ask that other thing? Why are they not pushing on this more? It's a great opportunity to like train your mind a little bit differently when hearing what attorneys say or do in terms of omission or commission. So, and hey, Gloria. Hey, see Chanel.
Well, and then you also mentioned like consciousness of guilt too. Like if you know like you're going to be doing something awful and you know you're in a relationship with somebody and then you know you're going to doing something awful or you already have done something awful. I also wonder if it's kind of to test the waters to be like, could he still love me if I got involved in something like this, or is it time to cut off this relationship?
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be. It could be.
Crazy. I never thought of it like that.
I don't think I didn't get the impression she was going to stay with him.
No, probably not.
I mean, she was going. She was out of there. She hated Tally. Okay, so see, Chanel, what is it that you know something about? Come on, let's hear it. Hey, Gloria. And, go Georgia. Did you notice how Washburn tried to smudge date from 17th to 18th? Was he trying to get some more? Yeah. Desperation, desperate measures, desperate times. Yeah, it's so fun. So fun. Well, I'd like to see how they're all scrambling. I don't think we're seeing the end of it. I mean, a plea deal could be on the table. We just don't know what's happening until it happens. So, but what we do appreciate is something happening. Like just even if, regardless of what comes from this FBI interview in 4 days, at least it's finally happening.
Yeah.
After 8 years. Is it 8 years or 9 years?
9
years. 9 years. Gosh. Yeah.
Dad.
Yeah. Well, so with that, we will come back with the police interviews with the Hoax boys. I think they're going to be really fun. And plus, I don't want to pick on women. I'd like to get on some of these guys. I mean, with that background, I think it's going to be a really fun exercise for us.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to talk about with Delphi or Suzanne Morphew? Anyone think that Barry Morphew is going to be arrested pretty soon? Might take a couple months.
Did you see, I don't know if you're following the Karen Reed case. So bad that I don't know that victim's name. And every time I see it, I just forget it. But the guy, Turtle Boy, his name is Aiden. He's been the one positioning, the conspiracy and all that. He was arrested yesterday for conspiracy.
What? Conspiracy to do what?
Because he's created conspiracies around that investigation. The cops are saying, with Karen Reed, they're saying like it was actually the murder happened at the house by the cops because he was also a cop. The victim was a cop, and they're blaming it on Karen Reed. And Turtle Boy is showing all these reasons why it couldn't have been Karen. And then the cops arrested Turtle Boy for creating conspiracies.
Wow, I didn't know you could be arrested for that.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I couldn't say I didn't know you could
I
be,
think
but
more probably defamation. I'm sure is
that's
part of
yeah,
it, but
maybe it's
I
defamation.
think I'm pretty sure it was. I don't know. There were 6 counts of reasons. So that's. I feel like they're trying to silence him versus it makes them look even more guilty.
Right, for sure. I mean, I'm not saying
Crazy.
I realize it's certainly got to be against some kind of statute,
Yeah.
but it's never done. It's
Right,
not
because of
done
freedom of
very
speech.
well,
Because
right.
of freedom of
It's
speech.
not done. It's just like
No.
perjury. There's you can always, it's
Yeah.
just not common to have
I'll have
somebody.
to send it to you, but yeah, he was arrested yesterday.
Wow, Turtle Boy. Yeah, he's definitely been outspoken
Yeah.
on that matter, and he has some good
crazy.
points. He's got some good
He does.
points.
He
Yep.
really does. Yeah.
hmm Okay, down the rabbit hole. My opinions is she couldn't keep it in. The crying, the head games, the drinking was all telltale signs. Holding the impending murder was a pressure cooker leaking out, and she didn't mean to blurt that out. Very possible.
Yeah.
Very possible, for sure. And let me go back. I think I missed a bunch of comments. And whoever C. Chanel is, hey, my peeps are here for me. So I love people who like to poke at other people and they got nothing.
I didn't even see what her
Yeah,
comment was. So
I don't even. I mean, I put it up because
Oh,
I want everybody. I want everybody to see that when people make comments, it's like we don't know what we're talking about. We're just talking.
Yep.
We're just talking. Okay, so Gloria, let me make sure I get all these comments in before we go. Gloria, rash bomb, or however you spell it. It was grasping at straws, even saying he would take Donna and Harvey off the defense whiffs. That was really funny. I was like, oh, I'll take him off. That was like, okay. He had 2 major screw-ups, and I forgot what I was saying earlier, but one of them was putting them on the defense list because Georgia was just waiting for that opportunity.
Yep.
Oh, good. I can interview them finally.
Yep.
Helen says, what about her book? What about her book? You mean Wendy's book?
Sure.
Oh, I missed a bunch of comments up here. Peter, we don't want to rock the boat.
Excuse me.
I don't know. I think I missed something. Did you notice? I think we got this one. Washburn. I love that, Washburn. I'm going to be calling him Washburn from now on. Okay. So, and then I think that this was Go Georgia. I was wondering about that too. I thought that Donna and Harvey would have been on the Zoom call, but it almost seemed like the lawyer for Donna and Harvey said she would have to talk with them, that they weren't there.
Yeah.
So they didn't show the screen, unfortunately. So we didn't I was hoping we'd see them. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but I do have to go.
Yep. I think we're done. I think we're done.
It's so good to see everybody.
Yes. And all
yes.
The reason we're here, justice for Dan. Okay, sweeties. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
Talk to you later.
So bye, everyone. Yeah, he wanted to take him off, and let me move her out. Thank you. Rashbaum wanted to take them off as a last ditch. It was like, oops, he realized his mistake. So he was outplayed. They were trying to play some chess, and that's how it goes. You can't. It's really hard to know what the next party's going to do if you do something. And I would think he would have thought that through. He didn't realize that they were going to ask for an investigative meeting with them. But naturally, they would have to, because like Georgia said, they never spoke with them. They're not going to put them on the stand without having some idea of what information they have. So, yeah, very cool. And LOL polka dots. Ooh, I missed polka dots. Sorry. Polka dots. Oh, yes. Thank you, polka dots. All right, guys. Well, yes. Are we interested in the Bardstown? I hope so. Obviously, when the trial starts, we'll be watching it with deep dive true crime. I definitely feel like I like to go live during trials sometimes, but I always run out of time. But I think it'd be fun to have a chat, maybe after 1 week, and 2 weeks, like 1 week per week during the trial. So we are only 10 days away from jury selection. 10 days. So this is going to be just a long wait for all of us, and thinking very much of Dan's survivors, Ruth and his father and his sister and those boys. So justice for Dan hopefully is around the corner. So thank you all for being here. I love you very much, and we'll see you next week.
you